On the night of October 12, 1984, in Dallas, Texas, Angela Samota, a 20-year-old college student, mysteriously disappeared after a broken, puzzling midnight phone call with her boyfriend. Just a few hours later, her body was found on her bed, in a strange position and with severe injuries. Right after committing the crime, the perpetrator quickly fled the scene, leaving behind the painful mystery of the young woman's death. For 22 years, the case remained unsolved until one of the victim's friends decided to investigate on her own to bring justice for her lost friend. You are watching a true crime case filled with dark, unexpected, and breathtaking twists until the very last moment. Hit like and subscribe to help us uncover the truth and reopen the Angela Samota case. In the early morning of October 13, 1984, a shocking incident occurred at an apartment complex near Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, involving the mysterious disappearance and suspected murder of a young female student. The victim was Angela Marie Samota, 20 years old, a computer and electrical engineering student, affectionately called Angie by her close friends. She lived alone in an apartment just a few minutes' drive from campus. Around 1:45 a.m. on October 13, Angela left her boyfriend Ben McCall's house after a brief conversation. Before that, she had dropped her friends off safely after a gathering. After leaving Ben's place, she returned to her own apartment. At 1:52 a.m., Ben received a phone call from Angela. Her voice sounded tense and uneasy. She began with a short, urgent sentence, "Talk to me." Angela said she had just let a strange man into her home. He knocked, asking to use the phone and the restroom. During the call, she hesitantly asked, "Is there a payphone nearby?" The question was believed to be a subtle way to get the man to leave without raising suspicion. On the other end, Ben heard footsteps, a door opening, and then a long silence. Before the call ended, Angela added one more sentence, "The bathroom is at the end of the hallway." Then the call was cut. That was the last time she made contact. At 1:58 a.m., Angela promised to call back, but minutes passed in silence. Shortly after, Ben tried calling several times, only hearing the phone ring from the kitchen area of the apartment with no answer. Around 2:10 a.m., filled with worry, Ben went to her place. Angela's car was still parked in front, a sign she hadn't left home. He knocked repeatedly, but no one answered. At 2:17 a.m., Ben officially called Dallas police to report that his girlfriend might be in danger inside her apartment. About 20 minutes later, police arrived at the scene. The landlord was called to provide a spare key, avoiding the need to break the lock. The apartment appeared tidy inside. There were no signs of forced entry and nothing seemed out of place. Everything seemed completely normal. Until they entered the bedroom. On the bed, Angela Samota's body lay motionless, showing many signs that she had fought back fiercely. In her still open eyes, there seemed to be something left unsaid. Initial autopsy revealed severe injuries to the victim's chest, some of which directly affected internal organs. One vital internal organ had been displaced from its normal position. This finding led investigators to suspect the case might involve psychological elements, personal obsession, or symbolic meaning, not just a simple murder. Based on body temperature and early signs of decomposition, forensic experts estimated the time of death to be about 15 minutes after Angela's last call with Ben. Just before 2 a.m., outside the bedroom, police found traces of bodily fluids in the kitchen and bathroom areas. This indicated the perpetrator may have moved around the apartment and tried to clean up before fleeing. At the scene, a sharp object was found missing from the kitchen area. The shower curtain showed stains suspected to be blood. Additionally, some marks on the victim's body suggested possible sexual assault before or after the time of death. However, investigators said they needed to wait for complete forensic results to determine the exact cause of death and time of attack. Notably, a partial but structurally clear fingerprint was found on the bedroom light switch, considered a crucial lead to track down the suspect. Around 3 a.m. that same night, Ben McCall, Angela's boyfriend and the first person to discover her body, was brought to the Dallas Police Department for questioning. In the interrogation room, Ben recounted in detail Angela's final call. during which she mentioned a strange man asking to come in to use the phone and bathroom. However, the detail about a strange man asking to enter late at night raised suspicions among investigators. Investigators began to form theories. Either Angela was too trusting, or there was something off in Ben's account. They didn't rule out the possibility that this detail had been fabricated to mislead the investigation. Ben was quickly placed at the top of the suspect list. He was interrogated continuously for more than 8 hours. However, forensic results found no traces of Ben's blood, DNA, or fingerprints at the scene. He also fully cooperated with the investigation, voluntarily handing over his phone and showing no signs of evasion. In the interrogation room, Ben repeated the details of Angela's final call, mentioning the strange man who asked to enter the house. Although there was no evidence to charge him, police still kept Ben under suspicion. At the same time, investigators expanded the suspect list, reviewing people who had conflicts or special relationships with Angela. According to friends, teachers, and neighbors, Angela was the ideal student: beautiful, smart, friendly, and often chosen as a student representative in charity events. A close friend described her as a triple threat: smart, attractive, and with a personality that made everyone like her. According to friends and family, Angela once dated Lance Johnson during high school. He was described as temperamental, controlling, and often excessively jealous. In one serious argument, Lance not only raised his voice but also issued threats and displayed violent behavior. The incident terrified the young woman. Angela immediately cut off all contact and moved to avoid being harassed. However, Lance showed up multiple times at her new home in a drunken state. He shouted to see her, once even banging on her door for over half an hour in the middle of the night. Another figure who drew investigators' attention was Henry, a fellow student in Angela's class. He was suspected of stalking and having an unhealthy obsession. Henry frequently sent love letters, wrote poems, and invited Angela to his room, despite being repeatedly rejected. When police searched Henry's room, they were stunned. The entire wall was covered in photos of Angela, from group shots at school to stalker-like pictures taken from afar. Alongside were dozens of handwritten letters, love poems, and recorded voice clips of her. The level of obsession chilled the investigators. However, Henry was quickly ruled out as a suspect due to a solid alibi. At the time of the murder, he was attending a group study session with many students and was recorded on library cameras. Forensic results also showed that biological samples from the scene did not match him. Henry was temporarily removed from the suspect list. The third name was Russell Buchanan, a young architect who had met Angela at a mutual friend's party. Calm and polite, he had once expressed interest in her but was turned down. Russell stated that on the night of the crime, he was one of 3 people hanging out with Angela. Around 1 a.m., he dropped her off at home, then returned to his apartment and stayed there all night. However, police were skeptical. Who could confirm he didn't leave the apartment? Was there any camera, witness, or physical trace to verify that? Police searched Russell's home, inspected clothes, shoes, phone records, and even parking log entries. Nothing appeared suspicious. DNA also didn't match samples from the scene. Although Lance, Henry, and Russell all displayed suspicious behavior, none of them could be prosecuted. They either had alibis or were not at the scene. Investigators had no choice but to shift focus, expand surveillance, send samples to independent labs, and request more advanced analysis from the forensic team. However, DNA testing technology in 1984 was not advanced enough to decode all the traces. Many biological clues were suspended due to lack of matching samples. After over a year without breakthroughs, the Angela Samota case was categorized as a cold case, like thousands of other unsolved crimes in Texas. While the victim's family lived in anguish, somewhere out there, the real killer continued to live freely, as if he had never committed a horrifying crime. Nearly 2 decades had passed since that fateful night, and the Angela Samota case, once a citywide shock, was slowly fading from memory. But then, something strange happened. Sheila Wasaki, Angela's best friend and former dorm roommate, suddenly dreamt of her. Angela said nothing. She just stood there, silently looking at Sheila with desperate eyes, as if begging, "Find the truth." That dream haunted Sheila day after day. It felt like a message, a cry for help from beyond. From that point on, Sheila embarked on a mission to seek justice for her friend. For 2 straight years, she made over 785 calls to the Dallas Police Department, pleading to reopen the case. However, all she received were cold rejections. The case is too old, there's nothing more to investigate. Refusing to give up, Sheila turned one bedroom in her house into a personal investigation center. She pinned crime scene photos, connected clues with red strings, and studied the case like a real detective. During that time, she taught herself to read forensic reports, decode crime scene notes, and studied criminal psychology materials. After years of persistence, Sheila was officially licensed as a private investigator in the state of Tennessee. Finally, her tireless efforts were recognized. In 2006, the Dallas Police Department officially agreed to reopen the Angela Samota case. A turning point in the reinvestigation was the testing of preserved DNA samples from the crime scene. The analysis result shocked the entire investigative team. The DNA was a 100% match with a man named Donald Andrew Bess Jr. Donald Andrew Bess Jr. had a serious criminal record related to sexual assault and violence against women. He had been arrested in 1977 and sentenced to 25 years in prison. However, in 1984, Bess was temporarily released on parole for good behavior. Chillingly, the time Bess was released coincided exactly with Angela Samota's murder. Not long after, in 1985, Bess was arrested again for a similar case and sentenced to life in prison. Throughout his incarceration, he had never been investigated or held accountable for Angela's case. It seemed the case had been buried by time until the DNA evidence was reanalyzed. In 2008, after all evidence was verified, the Dallas police officially charged Donald Andrew Bess Jr. with sexual assault and murder related to the 1984 case. In court, Donald Bess appeared in an orange prison jumpsuit, with a pale face and an emotionless gaze. Throughout the trial, he never shed a tear or showed any remorse. On the contrary, he calmly described the entire crime with a chillingly cold tone, leaving everyone in the courtroom horrified and enraged. According to testimony and the investigation, on the night of October 12, 1984, Angela Samota returned to her apartment after a night out with friends. Soon after, she heard a knock at the door. The man outside was none other than Donald Bess. He claimed his car broke down and asked to use the phone and bathroom. Angela, trusting and unsuspecting, let him in. She didn't know this was just a ploy for him to access her private space. While passing the kitchen, Bess quietly took a sharp object from the knife set. He then returned to the room and began questioning Angela about her call with her boyfriend. He wanted to know what she told Ben McCall, why she called him, and whether she mentioned Bess's presence. That was the moment the phone conversation between Angela and Ben was suddenly cut off. After a series of intimidating actions, Angela felt threatened and tried to escape, but it was too late. Bess threatened her with the weapon and forced her into the bedroom. It was in that very room that he acted with cold and brutal force. Angela resisted fiercely. Her body bore long scratch marks, nail gouges, and bruises around her neck, evidence of a desperate struggle. At the same time, Ben sensed something was wrong when he couldn't reach Angela. He rushed to her apartment, calling and knocking repeatedly. He had no idea that inside, his girlfriend was being held hostage by Bess. The sudden noise startled Bess. Fearing being caught and sent back to prison, he decided to kill Angela. After the crime, Bess quickly went to the bathroom to wash away evidence, then slipped out through the side door. After a trial with complete evidence and testimony, the jury quickly reached a final verdict. Donald Andrew Bess Jr. was sentenced to death under Texas law for committing an especially heinous murder as a repeat offender and showing no remorse. Bess was later transferred to the Allen B. Polunsky Unit in West Livingston, Texas, one of the most infamous death row facilities in the U.S. With this verdict, Sheila Wysocki's 25-year journey to seek justice officially came to an end. From an ordinary woman, Sheila taught herself investigation skills, fought persistently, and became the one to bring her best friend's murder case back into the light after nearly 3 decades. Sheila became a symbol of perseverance, honored by many organizations and media outlets for her remarkable contributions to unresolved cases. Angela Samota's family held a simple yet solemn memorial. the first time they truly felt peace after decades of sorrow. The Angela Samota case is not only proof of advances in forensic science, but also a symbol of faith and determination. Justice may come late, but it will never disappear, as long as there are those brave enough to fight for it. This video concludes here. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.